Hello, it is fall. I know it is fall because I recently randomly got hit with feelings about The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. Which is strange because I didn't like that book. And I remembered randomly last year I'd read The Goldfinch by maybe it's even 2 years ago. When did the movie come out? I read it just before the movie came out. I remembered that I had read that book and that I had wanted to do a review of all of Donna Tartt's books. But then I got stuck on The Little Friend by Donna Tartt. And then a few days ago I got hit with the urge to talk about Donna Tartt's books. So I decided to officially DNF The Little Friend and to do the review anyway. I'm going to talk about these books in order of which I read them. I'm going to start with The Secret History, then do The Goldfinch, then do The Little Friend. Keep in mind, the last of her books that I read was The Secret History, which I read in, I think, November of last year. So I'll do like a general, these are my thoughts, non-spoilery, then I'll go into each of the books separately. Spoilery, there will be timestamps in the description below in case you've only read one of them and you want to hear my thoughts about that one. So in general, I think Donna Tartt is a good writer. Her writing style is something that a lot of people remark upon as being like really lovely and being, you know, she writes very lyrically and a bit long-winded, but it's very nice. Her books have a very good aesthetic to them always. Like, it is that dark academia aesthetic that just really gets me going. And I really like that about her books. None of her characters are very likable, but I think she does a fairly good job at writing realistic characters. I don't know, I feel like something that's maybe dangerous about me filming this video now rather than when I'm just read them is that I have a strange nostalgia towards them, even though I haven't read them that long ago even. It's just that it's always kind of shitty to go for because they're really long-winded, but then afterwards I'm kind of looking forward to them or looking back at them quite fondly to be like, oh, I actually really enjoyed that experience, even though I don't think I did in the moment. But I enjoy looking back on the fact I've read them, if that makes any sense at all. Which I think is why this review may be a bit more positively geared than it would have been if I had filmed it right after. I tried to film even a reading vlog about when I was reading The Goldfinch, and I was also going to do a movie review. And I filmed like a lot of content and then for some reason didn't post it. I don't really remember why. But yeah, that was probably going to be a much more negative video than this is going to be, because now I kind of look back on it fondly. Hello, this is editing me, and I want to say, I go into this later, but I should have said it in this general section. There's a lot of bad things, like problematic things in these books also. Like, there's a lot of racism, there's a lot of misogyny, there's a lot of drug abuse, and things like that do make these books bad also. And I go into, I think, some more details of that a bit later, maybe not as much as I should, but it's something that I want to point out here also. Which I think is everything non-specific about her books in general that I can start, therefore, with The Secret History. I have this cover, it looks like this. It's quite pretty. I picked this up in a secondhand bookstore when I was 15. I think in general, I can say I like this book. I can give you a little synopsis. It's about Richard, who switches major to become a classic student and kind of joins this elite little group of 5 other students who study classics, and they're all extremely pretentious and they and mysterious. When they do a bacchanalia, a thingy to honor Bacchus, whatever, that they accidentally kill someone. 4 of them do. The 5th person finds out, tries to blackmail him. They then kill that friend of theirs, the 5th person, and kind of deal with the consequences. It's at a small town university in Vermont. None of the characters are likable, but all of them are extremely good. There's Richard, the main character, who is extremely boring and impressionable and accommodating. He has no spine and he'll go along with everyone. Then there's Bunny, who is the person they kill, who is very loud and energetic and always tries to ask people for money and kind of very subtly manipulates people, and then kind of goes further and further with that. And everyone in this book has negative character development. Then there's Charles and Camilla, who are twins. Charles is quite kind most of the time, but when he drinks, he is also an alcoholic, and when he drinks a lot, he gets violent. He is also sleeping with his sister Camilla, who is the only girl in the group, and everyone's in love with her, including her own brother. And I don't really know who else Camilla is. She's not like other girls, basically, and she can be a bit catty towards other girls. Richard, the main character, is also in love with her, and so is Henry. Who is kind of the leader of that group. His name is Henry Winter, which is one of my favorite names, and he is extremely smart. He has a lot of headaches and he has sleeping problems and health problems, and he's very socially awkward, but he's very smart, and he's kind of the leader of that group. And then there's Francis, who is smart also. I mean, all of them are smart. Like, quite sensitive, quite not very kind, but he is trying sometimes. I find him very funny. He is gay. He is sleeping with Charles also, but Charles is not very nice to him. Those are, I think, all of the characters, and they're all horrible, but like I kind of like them. And I don't know, by the way, this book, and I think all of her books, pretty problematic in the way that all of the characters are extremely homophobic, racist, misogynistic, just bad in all those ways. So you see that really in this book against Charles. Also, Bunny, extremely racist. Most characters kind of go along with it. I don't know what it is about this book that I like. Why is it so fun to hate these characters? I think it's a lyrical writing, and it's real in a way, right? Like, all of these characters are so pretentious, and I go to university. I know people that are kind of like this, but a little bit toned down. Like, I like they're being corrupted kind of by the classic ideals, and them like wanting to impress the professor so much. I feel like those things are kind of relatable. I did a class last year called Homer's Army. You read Homer and you talk about it, and like just the feeling of your professor going, that's a good thought. It's just like, I would commit a murder for you, David. And yeah, I don't know. In that way, it's relatable because people in university, some of them are like this, but toned down and not as horrible. And I don't know, they just have all of these interlocking character relationships that are extremely interesting, and you don't quite want to be them because all of them are horrible, but like you want to be like that but better. I think that comes down to the aesthetic again, and the writing. Here's the thing, it's very pretentious, but then sometimes they're just so extremely dumb that it is so funny. It is like, Henry in particular is a character that knows so much about like dead languages and classic and everything. He has no idea what's going on in the world. I don't remember if this is actually what happened in the book or if this is a post I saw on the internet, but it's almost like Henry Winter does not know the moon landing happened and things like that. He's extremely oblivious about how the real world works, which is very funny to me, and that's what makes these characters bearable, and it's just extremely funny. But I think that is something that Donna Tartt does really well. That nuance, or that not going over the top but not that much over the top, where like she could have written it entirely like these characters are extremely smart and good, but she didn't. Like, she made them kind of dumb at times, and I think that makes it really funny, and also makes it real and makes it hit sometimes, because there's part of that sometimes using simple language to show that your characters are fucking dumb teenagers, but there's also part of that makes the hard-hitting moments like hit much more, where if everything's really lyrical, then the things that aren't are going to stand out so much more. Near the end, and this is a spoiler, Henry dies because he shoots himself. He does a very lyrical description of where he is, blah blah blah, very sentimental, and then it goes, Henry died, of course, with 2 bullets to the head. I don't suppose he could have done much else. That hits so much harder than if he'd done like a also very lyrical description of Henry's death, or if everything up to that had been in this same tone of voice. That shift of tone makes it so much more interesting. I don't know, it's a very fun book to think about. Also because I do like being pretentious, and I really like things that are pretty. A lot of this is also why the lyrical writing works so much, is the characters care so much about beauty, and I feel like I get caught up in that, in the lyrical writing. I had that a lot while reading Oscar Wilde, where he puts everything so prettily that you kind of want to agree with him, even though his point itself is dumb as fuck. It happens in all of Tartt's books, is a lot of drug abuse. I know one part of this where Richard's just doing coke in the Burger King parking lot, and they do a whole lyrical description of the fucking Burger King parking lot. It is very funny. That is also one of those undertones, again, that is quite problematic, probably. I mean, it is university drug abuse, does happen. Even though they're probably doing more of it. It plays down drug abuse and alcoholism quite a lot. Which are serious topics, so you probably shouldn't do that. As for the actual plot of this book, it's quite interesting because there isn't really that much of it. There's a lot of them just hanging out, which I enjoy. I think the way I feel about this book is also the way I feel about The Goldfinch a little bit. I acknowledge that it's very problematic, but I did enjoy it. I think that was the book that I have generally the most positive opinion about. Also probably the most opinions. Goldfinch is, I don't have it with me, I don't own it. I'm quite glad I don't. I am tempted to buy it. All of those things can be true at the same time. The Goldfinch is about a boy named Theo Decker. I think, I haven't looked it up to do this video, but I am gonna call him that, and I'm pretty sure it's his name. He lives in New York. When he's 10 years old, maybe a bit older. He goes to the Met with his mom. He looks at a painting, the Goldfinch. A bomb goes off. A lot of people there die. He goes back to steal the painting of the Goldfinch, and his mom dies. He then is passed around a bit, and then back to his father, who lives in Las Vegas. In Las Vegas, Theo meets Boris. They go through some wild years with a lot of drug abuse. He goes back to New York. Wait, I think it was either his father died. I think his father dies. Theo flees back to New York. Goes to the antique man, and then like works in that shop. starts dating the sister of his friend who he lived with for a while. The friend died. This is a wild story. He's at this point still abusing drugs a lot. He grows older at some point, I don't know. Does a lot of drugs, gets engaged with that girl, cheats on her, she cheats on him. It's a bad relationship. Then finds out at some point that he doesn't still have the painting. Boris took the painting. Boris finds him. Painting has been stolen again, or they go look for it. I don't really remember. They go to Amsterdam to get the painting back. There's a shootout at some point. They get the painting back, or give it back to the museum. Theo miskills himself, but then he doesn't, and that's the end. That's what happens in that book. And that may sound like there's a lot that happens in a book. That book, however, is 900 pages long, and it drags on like you do not want to know. It was hard. It was a hard time. It's extremely hard to get through. Theo is a very annoying protagonist, also like Richard. Does nothing, is very annoying. A lot of descriptions of drug abuse. A lot of him being sad and lonely and having mental breakdowns. Which is fine, but something about this time the lyrical writing really make it drag a lot. Especially in the Vegas years, that was something. I don't know, this is one of those books that I have the most nostalgia for, where I know that I hated it while I was reading it, but now I really want to reread it, and I don't know, I really look to it fondly, even though it's a bad book. Also here, the homophobia and the racism and everything is drug abuse, quite bad. But also, maybe it was a good book. I don't know, maybe I actually like it. Even though I just told you all of those things that happen, it feels like there is no plot in this book, but it's 900 pages, and I feel like it didn't have to be. Or that's how I felt when I was reading it, right? But then I finished it, and now I kind of feel like it did have to be 900 pages. Did those 900 pages make it good? No. Is the reason that it's 900 pages making me look back on it fondly? Yes. Because I saw the movie, and the movie is a pretty accurate adaptation. It's a long movie, but it's not 900 pages. So it doesn't make me think, I don't think as fondly of the movie as I do of the book, because that book made me go through 900 pages, and I was kind of like suffering along with Theo, right? So I kind of feel like kinship with Theo. We were both there for 900 pages. Neither of us had a good time, but like, we kind of got closer at the end of it. You know? There's a few things that I really liked. The atmosphere, again, especially the Vegas years, like, so... They're not vivid, because kind of the whole idea of them is that they're a bit muddled for Theo either, and just the way she's done that is really good. She can really set down the atmosphere, and I appreciate that. So that was good. So the characters are interesting. Not all of them. Most of them are not. But Boris and Theo had a very interesting relationship, and I really would have liked to see more of that. That was good. The dog is very good. Very important. I like art history just because I enjoy art history, and I like reading about paintings and stuff. I don't know, the vibes are just good. Fifth, I really like when they're in Amsterdam, because I'm Dutch and I have been in Amsterdam, and I recognize all of those things that they talk about. Like, it feels really Amsterdam. Like, that's again sitting down the mood. Like, it feels very Amsterdam when they're there, and that's really good. I remember the only time I think that I had a really good time reading this, when they're in Amsterdam and they're going back from the shootout, I think. And they're just losing the way in Amsterdam. It is hilarious, that bit. I had such a good time reading that, which is also because Boris is an amazing character, because Theo is always just like losing his mind and having a breakdown, which is pretty valid, but I don't care to read about it. But then Boris just comes out with like very straight truths, and he's traumatized. He's a bad person, but just like the way he says it is just very fun. I don't know, there's a scene, there's just been a shootout. Theo's having a mental breakdown about the fact that he just saw someone die. And Boris is just like, okay, let's go. You drive, because I have my license suspended, so like, you need to drive. And then Theo's having a breakdown, and Boris just watches that and go, okay, just let's hope we don't see any cops, because I'm gonna drive. And they lose the way, and it's all through the canals and over the bridges, and it's very fun if you know Amsterdam. Also because there's a part where they hit a dead end, and Theo's in this passenger seat still having a breakdown, and you hear all of his like thoughts of like, oh, our lives are over, what we did was horrible, everything's wrong, blah 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 blah. Then like Boris goes, oh fuck it, dead end. And then Theo out loud goes, oh, where are we gonna go now? What are we gonna do now? A whole ramble like that. And then Boris goes something like, just back and take a left, I guess. I don't know. It's just, their dynamic is very good. I think that was something they didn't do well in the movie, the dynamic of Boris and Theo when they are older. Because I think in the book that was still very good. And I think the young Boris and Theo dynamic in the movie is very good. But the older one, they didn't do as well. Relationships with women are always bad. His stepmother, actually, most interesting female character, I think, in this book. Because there's also the girl he's in love with. I want to say her name is Pippa. I'm not 100% sure if that's true. He's like infatuated with her. She was at the museum when the bomb went off, like him, and they kind of feel a kinship through that, and they become friends. Extremely interesting character. However, our main boy Theo is just like in love with her and pining for her and very possessive of her in a way that's pretty gross. Gross, especially since at that point he has a girlfriend, a fiance. The girl, I think, was called Kitty? I don't know. She, his fiance, they don't really have a good relationship. Theo is still in contact with her mother, and her mother really liked him because he was a friend of her son that died. So he's also kind of staying with the girl because her mother is very happy about their relationship, also partially because the girl has money. They don't really interact much apart from that. She's cheating on him, he's cheating on her a lot. I think they both know this. They never have a conversation about it. It's all extremely stupid. Then the last woman that has a gross relationship is his mother, kind of. He kind of idolizes her a lot, which is fine and kind of understandable. The book, however, starts with a dream he's having in which he describes his mother kind of a sexual way, and he keeps kind of doing that, and it's kind of gross. So that's not good about it. However, I did get hit with a longing to reread it, and I don't know how quickly that will go away. I can't even really describe it because it's not like Twilight, which is fun because it is so bad. It's not that bad. I don't really know how to describe it. Why am I doing this video? What are my thoughts on this one? Last, and in my opinion at least, also technically her first novel, is A Little Friend. This is about a girl, Harriet? She was the youngest, she has an older sister, and they had a brother in between them. But the brother, when he was young, he hanged himself on a tree in the front yard during a family party. And no one knows how it happened. The main character, Harriet, wants to find out what happened. And it kind of follows his family as they guard this secret. And like that sounds kind of good, right? And on this one, I also kind of liked the characters in ways. Harriet's like inquisitiveness is fun. I like a girl detective. Her sister didn't do anything and only sleeps, and her mother also does that, and that is kind of interesting. Also, and like they have a bunch of great aunts and grandmothers and stuff that all have pretty peculiar characters. That's quite fun. However, it's impossible for me to get through this, and I stopped reading it about half a year ago, where I already kind of gave up. So I don't particularly remember why. I stopped on page 163. Donna Tartt looks exactly how I expected her to look. And I just couldn't do it. And I don't really remember why. I think the actual plot wasn't furthering very much, and it was also focusing on these side characters that I didn't care about, and I don't know, it was just long-winded in a way that I didn't care about. There was, I think, the same lyrical writing, but the lyrical writing wasn't as good. It didn't, where it was interesting and appealing in other books, it didn't have that here for me. And it was still bad in the ways that the books were. So without having that appeal, it was just plain bad, in my opinion. I also feel it lacked, I guess, aesthetic. It's a very different vibe. It's more of a southern gothic vibe, which I don't vibe with as much. Also because it's not as relatable to me than the Dark Academia of the Secret History, and even Goldfinch has part of that because of the art history thing and the art theft. So art heists, some of the sexiest crime. Forgery, I think, a bit sexier because it requires actual skill. And I feel like if you're a good art forger, you should be allowed to keep that money because you just work for it. But that's just my opinion. Didn't vibe with the Southern Gothic as much. Too long-winded for my taste. Where in the other two books I was like, oh, this is pretty and lyrical. I didn't perceive it as that in this one. That may be me. There may be people who really like it, and maybe if I continued on, I'd learn to have that same nostalgia that I have towards the other two books. But right now, I don't have that, and I just didn't like this. Basically, that's, I think, all I can say about that one. So yes, that's my review of Donna Tartt's books. I mean, this is my review. I still don't really have a conclusive, this is how I feel about them. I like it. They're problematic and bad, but also I enjoy them, and because the aesthetic's kind of popping. Would I recommend them? Probably not. I feel like you might enjoy the Goldfinch after you finish it, like you will feel like you've gone on a journey, but I wouldn't recommend actually going through reading the book, because why would you? Secret History, sure, you could also read If We Were Villains by ML Rio. I don't know if I think this is better. I think actually Secret History is better. This one, much easier to get through, though. But I think I prefer the Secret History because what this doesn't have, that the Secret History does have, is that funny satirical element. I'm not sure if it meant to be satirical, but what I said, like sometimes the characters that are supposed to be so smart are so dumb, and it's just really funny. This one doesn't have that. Yeah, but I read them, and those are the thoughts I have. Happy fall. Goodbye.